Stefan Ozich, welcome to my podcast again.
Yes, second time guest.
Take two. So first time you came on the podcast would have been September 2024 when you were just about to begin this journey of running the TeAraroa Trail twice.
Yeah, far out when you put it that way. Yeah, September, I was just ramping up, probably 2 weeks out, wasn't it? Yeah, so shivers. A lot's happened since then, but yeah, that's correct. 4.5 months ago almost.
So it was one of those. It was one of those podcasts. Like from my perspective, it's like.
Sorry, guys. Sorry to interrupt. Stefan, could you pull your microphone in a little closer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can
we just go from the top again?
That's fine.
Well, can't we just pick it up from 40 seconds in?
Or, I mean, it'd probably be easier to go from the top. If that's what you want to do.
Okay.
I've got 40 seconds to spare.
Okay. Stefan Ozich, welcome back to my podcast.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
So this is your second appearance on the podcast. First time was September last year, just when you were about to embark on this journey of running the length of New Zealand twice on the TeAraroa Trail, 6,000 kilometres, which you ended up doing in 114 days, which works out to be an average of 52 kilometres per day.
Yeah, that's the one. Wasn't the plan was 100 days, averaging about 60 k's a day, but due to the terrain and unforeseen circumstances, which I'm sure we'll get into, that kind of dwindled that down and extended it out. But in the scheme of things, I'm happy that it wasn't much more than that, considering it was meant to be 100 and an extra 14 days. From a percentage, it's not much different. So in the end, I was pretty happy with that. Yeah.
Where did it go so horribly wrong?
Where to start?
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Like it's like just doing it at all is amazing. I know it wasn't the time you were hoping for in terms of days, but in some ways that makes it even more remarkable. You're out there for that much longer, like 4 months of your life all up.
Yeah, I was talking about this with a couple of friends, and it got to the point where, like, yeah, I'm in here, I'm doing this thing, I'm focused on this one thing, but once it passed throughout 100 days, 105 days, I was like, shit, this is getting intense. And once it passed 110 days, for me, that was kind of my invisible, like, yeah, that will be the maximum I go. But knowing that I only had 4 to 6 days left to go, I was like, no, I can ride this out. But it definitely got in the point where I'm like, this is getting long. Like this isn't just like a 2-month journey. This is like a third of a year. And I was trying to think very consciously of my crew too. You know, they committed so much of their life to this thing. It's kind of like, shit, I've got to, but you know, it's out of my control, right? I could only do so much in a day. That would lead to so much less time. So, but hey, we got it done.
Yeah, and for me, this is the exciting thing about having you back, because when I had you in here the first time, it was this big, hairy, audacious goal that you were planning on doing. And I thought you had that look in your eye that you were going to do it, but you just don't know. Like, there's so many variables that can come into these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can only say you're going to do something so much, right? You've got to actually do the thing. And that was my case. I was coming in blind as I could have been. I was prepared as I could be, but there's only so much you can, you know, get in line, and it's the doing it part. Like, I had all the logistics in order, but it was the actual physical act of doing it. So yeah, it's a weird place to be when I look back.
In terms of the preparation angle, what would you have done differently?
I would have started later in the year, just due to the adverse weather. That probably would have been the biggest thing. Honestly, not much else.
So physically, you'd done enough?
Yeah, physically, yeah. I don't think I could have done anything more, honestly. Like, because the thing is, what I learned very quick is you're going to get injured. It's inevitable you're going to get injured. It's just a matter of how soon and how effectively and how efficiently you can, you know, recover from that. But it would have been probably the start date. I would have pushed it further in the year. Because just the weather I encountered, which I had no idea I was going to encounter, was just extreme. It was very, very, it caught me off guard. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to get into that and talk about that. Yeah, first of all, before we go any further, we'll talk about your why.
Sure.
Your brother Jerome in particular. Like in the first time you came on the podcast, this made up a big part of it.
Yeah.
Your why. But for anyone that maybe didn't hear the first one but is listening to this now, what's the why?
Yeah, great. So ultimately, 2 years now, coming up to 2 years now, my brother, he took his life, and a year prior to that, I lost one of my closest friends to the same circumstances, and I got to catch a first-hand glimpse as to how under-resourced and underfunded the mental health sector is in New Zealand from a men's perspective, catering to helping men in particular. And it prompted me to be like, nah, I've got to raise money, raise awareness, whatever it looked like. And then fortunately in that period with my brother, when he was suffering, I met the founder of this foundation called the Last Chance Project. And it was from that journey after Jerome passed that I created this connection, realized like, nah, this is the foundation that I'm going to raise money for. So that was ultimately the why. Yeah.
And you did raise money. I checked the Give a Little page last night, 231,000.
Yeah, yes.
It's like $250,000. And your goal or your dream or your wish was to raise $1 million.
Yeah, correct.
$250,000.
Yeah. I mean,
it ain't bad.
I remember when we had this, we chatted about this at the beginning, and I think at the time I had 50,000 maybe, and then you made such a good point, which really kind of took a bit of weight off my shoulders, and you asked a good question in the lead up, and prior to that too, was, you know, it's still a shit ton of money, and it's still more than nothing. You know, that's still a lot of money to work with, and knowing that it's now $250,000, it's, yeah, it gives a bit of peace, but it also tells me that that's still a significant amount of money that can make some change. However, there's still that goal, right? It's still there, but I'm at peace with it. And I remember you asked that question, and it told me, like, you know, if you don't reach the target, which we in a way haven't, it's still knowing that that money, that chunk of cash is going to bring some change and bring some value to men. And that for me is, yeah, gives a lot of peace, and it tells me that, okay, the mission is somewhat complete. I'm at peace with that. Setting the goal is one thing, but actually getting somewhat close to it, or even a quarter of the way to it, hey, it's better off than zero. So, yeah.
Yeah, $231, especially in the climate we're in at the moment. You know, cost of living crisis, inflation crisis. Everyone's struggling. I think it's a ton of money, especially for a guy that doesn't have like a you know, with all due respect, like a huge profile. You've done this like just with your own sort of I don't know, tenacity and drive and spirit. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, interesting. Putting it that way. That was a factor too. It's like, who am I? You know, who's this guy? And it definitely helped coming on your podcast by all means. But yeah, I mean, again, we said this, when there's a why and it's strong enough, it's that leads primarily. And I noticed this at the end. I got way more traction, way more attention near the end, which is what I knew would happen. And then people eventually do start to recognize. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, the week that we're recording this, it's just been announced that what's his name? Is it Russ Cook? You know, the world's hardest geezer. Yeah. It seems like a promotion. I don't think it's a charity thing. I think it's a promotional sort of thing. Sponsored by 100% Pure New Zealand. So Russ Cook, hardest geezer, massive social media following. He's coming to New Zealand to run the TeAraroa Trail once, not twice. I'm probably projecting here. This probably says more about my ego than anything else, but yeah, does it fuck you off that he's had so much media attention about it?
Nah, it does, like obviously there's a smidgen of like, fuck, but nah, because at the end of the day, what that guy did running the length of Africa, which is, for those listening who didn't know, that's why he got the clout he does and has got the awareness, and that's just so extreme. Like, obviously there's that part of my ego that's like, damn, but it's like, hey, he's deserved that. He's fully deserved that, and who knows, for my next thing, hopefully it will bring more attention. So, I respect that. But the thing is, I wrote a message on his page. I'm like, hey, bruv, if you got any tips, if you want any tips, I've ran it twice, only person ever to do so, and it's got like 300 likes on his thread. So that pops it up the comment higher. So hopefully he sees that and be like, oh yeah, I might ask a few questions. Yeah. So who knows? But hey, what he's done and what he's achieved is it's mind-boggling. So power to him, really. Yeah,
whatever the deal is, presumably the payoff for 100% New Zealanders, the tourism benefits from
big time
attaching themselves to his social media. But there's a few guys out there doing incredible stuff, like Ned Brockman in Australia as well. He's another one that's done some amazing runs. Maybe next time you do it, you'll get the sort of
that's the thing.
The clout or the flowers that you deserve.
Because the thing that this was my first thing, and it was quite an extreme thing. It's like maybe the next thing. Who knows? It's going to be interesting because obviously for me this is just a start, right? I've well and truly got the bug for big events, and knowing now that physically I can get through quite a lot, it's like, okay, cool, let the body settle, refresh, digest, assimilate all the learnings, and then, next thing will come.
Yeah, where are you at now? Are you at the point now where you just sort of blue sky thinking, just coming up with possibilities of what you want to do next? Or
Yeah, in a way, well, because I had a lot of thinking time to do on this mission, I was already kind of like, crazy to think, even thinking about it now, was during the event, I was already thinking about what I was going to be doing after this event, and I already had ideas. So even during and now after, for sure. Main focus now has just been recovery. So that's kind of all my focus is now. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how did the recovery look? Like, sort of unexpected side effects and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. What we spoke about before off camera, right? It was the blues. I definitely felt like, what would you say, post-event depression. I was pretty low. I was very surprised how low I got. Just a bit overwhelmed, anxious, jittery, all the noise, all the focus on, me and this mission. The ego likes that. My mind was loving that in a way. And then all of a sudden it's just turned off. That in itself is its own thing, but focusing so solely on this one thing for such a long time and to have that cease, it was a ton of bricks, so to say, but I've dealt with it, I think, in a real healthy way with, my family and with, we spoke about my faith. That's been helpful, and just through my own processing and trying to just be gentle with myself, but still at the same time have that same discipline and ferocious focus, but in a recovery sense and in a sense of like rest and in a sense of keeping it cool. That's been kind of my attention switching to kind of that area.
That seems mainly mental. What about physical?
Yeah, true. That very mental, because I think the mental thing has been the hardest thing. That's the physical kind of came naturally because I know what to expect. So sauna, big time. I had an ice bath actually, and my usually when I go in an ice bath, right, you have the pain and it kind of dwindles and you kind of just deal with it. When I went in an ice bath last week, my feet felt like there was a blowtorch being centered on it, and it wouldn't go. Usually after about 5-10 seconds, it goes. It just stayed there. So that told me the nerve ending. So I actually asked this friend of mine. He said, the capillaries and the nerve endings are just shot. So you imposing that cold, which causes, I think it's vagal contraction, that's going to conflict and cause so much pain to those nerve endings. So don't do that yet. Focus on the body, don't focus on the feet. So that's kind of been the focus, just focusing on the rest of the body, massaging the feet, just not ice bathing it. And eating and sleeping, that's really been it. Eating good food, sleeping 8 to 10 hours a night. So that's the physical component. But as I was saying about the mental, that's been the most, that's taken the most time. And it's been probably the hardest. It's been the most unexpected too, with what I've had to deal with, as I was just saying. So, yeah, it's a marriage. As it is with the event I did, it's physical and mental. So same thing with recovery. And it's been real good too, because I've been doing journal entries and just processing what I'm going through as I'm recovering. And that's been quite formal for me and educational, because I've also got my coaching business and I've got clients. Now I've got this sort of repertoire of experience and knowledge now that I can pass on to people that may do similar things, and I can be like, hey, this is likely what you expect. Don't fret out. Expect it, but don't be fretted out. Be patient, and you'll get through it. You'll get through it.
Oh yeah, you're a wealth of knowledge now for anyone that wants to do one of these extreme sort of challenges. Yeah. I heard, maybe I read it in an article, whatever. The quote was, "You feel grateful rather than proud." Can you explain what you mean by that?
Good question. Yeah, proud. I don't know. It's an interesting word. Grateful. Grateful that my body was able to get through it. Grateful that I had the crew. Grateful that I had the body that could tolerate the onslaught of injury. Grateful that I had the circumstances. Grateful I had the support. Grateful I could be an opportunity. It was just a multitude of those factors that told me, I'm able to do this thing. And pride for me, which I think what being proud means, is that you're sort of involving your own self-will as the means and the mechanisms to getting the thing done. Like, it's only you, it's only through your control. So that's why I didn't really like to use that language. I like to use the language of gratitude, because it was all the things around me and all the people I had around me and all the circumstances that were in my favor that allowed me to do it. So that's really the reasoning. Yeah. I try to not allow it to get, because again, the ego can be very pernicious, my one as well, as all of ours can be. But it was a means of checking myself, you know. Obviously, I did the thing. I'm not taking away from that. But I realized very clearly that, I'm just so grateful. Like, even just my parents alone, like the support they had, they'll text me every day. Such a huge boost for me to know that I've got these parents that support me, that are in my life. And then I have my friends. They would like message me most days. So all those things as to why I was more grateful than I was proud of what I'd done.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for that answer.
Yeah.
Okay, how many pairs of shoes?
Yeah. It's honestly, Vivo Barefoot, shout out to my main sponsor. They are a well-wearing, sturdy shoe for something that's only 8 mils a tread.
What is it?
Vivo Barefoot. They were the shoe I wore for the whole thing. 8 mils a tread, and that would last, essentially it was 4 months. So that they would, I'd have a pair that I could have kept going. So really, I went through 2 pairs that like completely ripped, but the actual soles of the other 6 pairs that I threw out, I could have probably got another, 50 Ks, 100 Ks out of all of them. But the sole started to give too much, that they would have carried like too much of a compensation that could have caused the injury. That's kind of why I threw them out. So really only 8 pairs I went through, which in the scheme of things was pretty,
Yeah, amazing. Cause, it's trail running as well. It's rough terrain. So I don't know what these shoes are. Is it like the Vibram 5 fingers?
Similar principle, except you haven't got individual toe.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just a barefoot style shoe
Like
with
a
a wide toe
minimalist.
box, minimalist style. Yeah. There's no stack height between the forefoot, midfoot, and the sole, so just neutral.
And did you have AirPods or anything, or did you raw dog it?
Raw dogged most of it. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just you and your own thoughts?
Pretty much.
Why?
Yeah.
What was the mentality
It's
behind
weird. It's a weird thing, Dom. I've tried to figure this out. For some reason, there's this thing in my mind that feels like a pain listening to music. I can't explain it. I really can't explain it. Like, I put them in, and all of a sudden I get bored, which is counterintuitive because you get bored of doing the thing, like where you're not listening to music. But there was moments where I was like, it was generally music. It was generally podcasts or audiobooks that I was listening to. I didn't really listen to music when I was listening to something. I'm trying to, I don't know. It's a weird thing, man. And then it was until like 5 years ago, David Goggins came out saying like, nah, listening to shit's cheating. And then I was kind of like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense to my logic then. It kind of is cheating. But really, before he said that, I'm not trying to like say like, yeah, Goggins. Before that, I was never really a listener of music. So yeah, it's a weird thing. I got a weird thing with that. I don't know. But don't get me wrong, man. Like, I do listen to music or listen to a podcast or audiobook. But yeah, it was just, I don't know, because it was so, you required so much focus as well. You required so much attention on the steps, especially in the gnarly terrains in the South Island. You kind of couldn't, like, listening to something might be distracting. All it would take is a misstep, and then you're done. You could have rolled an ankle, snapped a leg. So that was also part of it as well. I had to be so engaged to what I was doing.
Yeah, and I don't think we can stress that enough. Like, running 6,000 Ks over 4 months is insane in itself. But to do it over the trails and also with the vert that the TeAraroa trail has, it's just like an added dimension.
Yeah, big time.
Crazy. So so most of the time you're alone in your own thoughts, and obviously on those technical bits, mindfulness is key. You have to be so in the moment. But what about times like, when it's just flat and boring? Like, where did your mind go to in those places? How did you stay positive?
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I'll ask the first question. Like the flat sections, I must admit, it was probably the real flat sections where I did listen to a podcast or read an audiobook. But if I didn't have that, I guess I'll just be it was kind of like an active meditation. My mind was just focused on like, well, I'm doing this thing. And then I'll just kind of focus in and I can't explain it, man. It just goes. The time just goes and I'm just absorbed in this thing. But I'd say the best explanation would be kind of like an active meditation. But yeah, to keep positive, that was one that I had to deal with most days. Like every single morning I woke up, I didn't want to go for the run. Like I never had I never had a day. Maybe 2 or 3 times I can vividly remember, but most of the time I'd wake up and be like, yeah, fuck this. You know, what am I doing out here? Especially near the end when I'd be midway through a day and I'd almost just laugh to myself. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? You know, but then I'd bring myself back. I'll be like, okay, I know exactly why I'm here. I know exactly why I'm doing this. I know for whom. And my why was just, again, that was the biggest thing, the biggest driver. So that kept me honest. But and also having my crew there, I would be so black and white with how I was feeling with them. I had my uncle. He actually, this is a cool little story. He was essentially the crew chief for Steve Gurney, one of the most decorated coast-to-coast athletes in New Zealand's history. He was one of the main crew chiefs for him, and he told me about the system, saying the 1 to 10 system. 1 being you need to go to a hospital, 10 being you could conquer the world. And I'll just share that with the crew. Hey, boys, I'm feeling about a 7-6, you know? That's how I'm at. Sometimes we'd go deeper. Generally, we wouldn't. It would just be like a bit of a metric for us to kind of get a gauge as to where I'm at. And in another sense, I also had one thing I can't forget is I had Sam Pendray with me, one of my crew, but he was also a pacer for me. So a lot of those sections too, where it would be very technical and very isolating, he would actually come join a leg with me. So having him there alone was like a real morale booster when I was in a dark space. Sometimes, honestly, I'd love to get his perspective on it. We would be out there for 8 hours and we wouldn't even say a word, you know, sometimes we'd just be in the zone. But having him there was just enough to kind of keep me, you know, all good, especially when I was dark.
Was that a like a safety thing as well?
Yeah.
Like in case you fell off the side?
Yeah, you could say so. Safety thing. And it was also, he was part of helping me to get the FKT, because that was part of the initial goal as well. It was finishing it, but it was also getting the FKT, the fastest known time. So covering from Cape Reinga to Bluff in the fastest time that anyone's ever done. But that went out the door by day 28. So, yeah, which I'm sure we'll get to. Yeah.
Was that, did that bum you out?
Yeah, it did. It did at first, but I was so quick to just be like, all good. I know the main goal. I knew that was a secondary goal. Yeah, I was very quick to just shift because I knew end of the day what I'm going to quit, what I'm going to be droopy. I've still got so much time ahead of me. I kind of got no energy to be bummed out by it. Yeah.
How did you manage to break it down into like daily chunks? Because I'm just, again, I'm projecting. If it was me that was taking on a challenge like this, I think I could handle running like 50Ks or 60Ks in a day. But then the prospect of, I know it'd be fucking hard though on its own.
Yeah.
But then in my head, I'd be like, oh, I can't keep doing this for another 100 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, you get ahead of yourself. How did you manage to stay in the moment?
Yeah, big
or
time.
in the day?
What you answered it. That was, I'd have to stay in the moment. I'd have to stay in the day. The moment I'd start thinking ahead, the moment I'd start thinking about, you know, a month away, 2 months away, I'll just get super overwhelmed. Obviously, the mind would be going all the way there. There would be times where I'd be thinking, like, fuck, what if I quit? Or what if I pull out? Or what if I get injured? Or am I even going to do this? This is constant chatter. But every time that happened, I'll just bring myself back to the footstep. And then, okay, I'm here now. I'm in the bush. I've just got to get through this day. When I'd break it down into a day, though, I'd break it down into the legs. So by that, I mean I'd start because I had used the crew and I would use this app. It was the TeAraroa Trail app, and it has the distance markers in any given day. So say if I'm in Kirikiri, that marker would have been maybe 258 kilometre marker. I'll meet the boys at 268, so 10 Ks away. So I'll just break it down in my mind where I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm going to be at this 10K leg, so let's just get through this leg. And by the time I get to the motorhome, I'll have some food, I'll have some rest, and can start again. I'll just break it down into the legs. There'll be days, though, where it would be in the bush, and I'd be away from the boys for maybe upwards to 3-4 days, which is something I listened to in our podcast where I said, oh, I'll be upwards for 2 days. Nah, there was sections where it'd be like 3.5 days till I'd see the boys. So in those instances...
What did you have, you had like a little camelback with a sleeping bag on? Or
it was like a fast pack. It was a 32-litre fast pack. So I had my sleeping bag, all that stuff, and it had like the front flask holder, and it had my camelback, my bladder in the back. So I had all of that. Sam was with me for this specific leg as well, that duration, and we'll just break it down to huts. Getting to the huts would probably take 4, upwards to 6 hours. Let's just get to that hut. Let's have a quick rest, quick food, and go again. So it'd be breaking it down by legs. That was the only way to kind of rationalize and process the extent of what was ahead of me, especially when I was about 50 days in. halfway, allegedly, I'm like, shit, I'm only halfway. Like, it was extreme. But again, I had to break it down to the days. The mind wanders. You can't stop the mind wandering. That was something I learned. You know, you can have all the tools, you can have all the practices, all the mantras, but when your mind's going there, you can't stop it. So how do you deal with that when your mind's overwhelmed with the prospect of what's ahead? Okay, just chunk it. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause me personally, when I've been doing like challenging events, and again, it's like I'm not comparing myself to you at all, but when things get hard, I almost come up with this narrative in my mind. Like I almost write the Instagram post in my mind of what I'd say my reason for not finishing is.
That's kind of reverse psychology in a way.
No, it's really negative, and it's like my point being, you can justify almost anything to yourself.
Yeah.
Like and no one's gonna question it or whatever. But
yeah, true.
by the same token, I suppose you can retrain your mind to just not be negative.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I guess a lot of it has to do as well with like your choice, you know. Yeah, you can train your mind to not be negative, but it's always gonna be. It's got that negative bias built in it, right? Because it's a evolutionary mechanism, allegedly. So that's always gonna be there, I think. But it's how you choose to view that negative self-talk. You know, end of the day, I think we are the ones that are able to take the steps and do that movement. The mind's going to say what it's going to say, but you're still the one that's going to do that thing. So the more equipped, I guess, the more patient, the more self-aware you are to be like, okay, well, these are just the thoughts, which kind of came to the whole impetus of why I was doing this, raise money for this foundation, but to show that dark days are inevitable, dark times are inevitable. How you are able to sort of navigate that and process through that's the beauty of life, I think. You've got to understand, and it comes to what you're saying now with those dark thoughts. It's always going to be there. But how you're able to process, how you're able to step through it, that's where the magic happens.
And in terms of nutrition, like, what do you eat every day? Like, how can you eat enough to fuel the machine?
You kind of can't. You'll always be in a deficit. And we again, I listened back to our episode and I said like, all this. Yeah, I'm not going to have pasta. I'm not, dude, I had pasta. I had white bread. I had French toast. I had pancakes, chips. Oh man, if you could have seen my diet on this bench, on this tabletop, you'd be shocked. But the body was just utilizing it all. There was a certain day I probably had close to 10 fizzy drinks in one day, for example, Coke, Bundaberg, those Karma Colas, the whole 9 yards. So it was carbs was the easiest. Carbs came easy, and then the rest was just making sure I had enough protein. Protein was vital. Mitchell's, they were my main sponsor. Mitchell's protein powder, I use their stuff every single day. The organ supplements and the protein powder, that was sort of supplementary. And then I had just like mince. I ended up not having food I usually had, which would be like steaks. I didn't really want it for some reason. I wanted just more simple, digestible mince. So it would be like nachos, spaghetti bolognese, homemade burgers, things like that. And then fats came easy because when you eat a lot of processed food, you get a lot of fat with that. So that was kind of my day-to-day. And how it would look in a day, though, would be morning breakfast, lunch, dinner. They were the primary meals. So breakfast would be, as I said, French toast. It would be pancakes. It would be bacon and eggs with 4 or 5 hash browns. And then lunches would be like, wraps. It could have been noodles, several packs of noodles with egg chopped in with a protein shake. Things like that. Then dinners were the heartiest. We try to make it the heartiest. Joel, who was the head chef, main crew member, he got real experimental near the end, started making like tortillas and wraps, nachos. Like it was full banquet meal, but constantly eating throughout the day to make sure that I would at least get close to the 5,000, 6,000 marker of calories, because I was losing probably upwards to 7,000 in a day. So I'd always kind of be in a deficit somewhat. But the thing that was real fascinating was I lost 10 kgs initially, probably halfway through the mission. And then by the time I got to about month 2.5, month 3, I started to put weight back on. So that told me I was actually meeting the quota that I was needing, which was a good thing. You don't want to be coming out of something like this completely and depleted, like from a weight perspective.
Emaciated, yeah. Oh,
yeah,
so
exactly.
You managed to put on weight.
Yeah. So I lost to 10 and then I put about 5 on. So I came out almost neutral body weight. Yeah.
People at Cape Reinga going, has he actually done it? Dude's got fat.
Yeah. That would have been hilarious if I put on like that much weight. Yeah, it was a good thing. It was a good thing because again, it makes. I listened to Dean Karnassus and he actually spoke to this. He's He's one of my inspirations, you could say. And yeah, he actually said that himself. And I was like, fascinating. So I kind of made sure I probably started. The thing that made it happen was probably I was having so many fizzy drinks, you know. I should be sponsored by Bundaberg, honestly. Bundaberg ginger beer. I was having average them alone probably 3 to 4 a day, just Bundaberg. Perfect for the nausea because of a ginger. So
yeah. Amazing. Bundaberg.
Shout out.
Give him a call. Dean Karnassus, who you're talking about, he became famous with his best-selling book called it was called Ultra Marathon Man.
Yeah,
and his sort of shtick, if you like, early on was he'd go for a long run overnight and he'd take his phone with him and like order a pizza.
Yeah.
And then meet the pizza delivery guy, then roll the pizza up like a burrito and eat it. And then keep
hard
running.
case while he was running. That's what was crazy. You know, you'd balance the
So what did like an average? So you're just moving all day, running all day.
Yeah, pretty
fueling
much.
all day.
Yeah.
And the average night, what did that look like?
Yeah, the sleep was shit, man. Like, that was one thing I was so pissed off at because I spoke to other people. Shout outs to George Henderson, who actually holds currently the FKT. Probably going to lose it now, to Karel Saab, a Belgian guy. He said by like 2-3 weeks in, he was sleeping like a dream. And he said, I spoke to everyone else, same thing. Fuck, man, every night I'd get to bed, but I'd always wake up. I'd just be jacked up. Body was sore. I'd never get a good night's sleep. So that was one thing I was having to deal with every night, every day, just knowing that, fuck, man, I'm not even going to get a good replenishing sleep. But, you know, I still went to bed, usually around 9:30 p.m., wake up 5:30 a.m. That was usually that was the formula, so to say. Sometimes I'd have to wake up at 4:30 due to the day ahead. It was just be how the day, you want to start early. But that was generally the nights. And, yeah, it just sucked because sleep was never really a thing that would come and I'd never feel replenished, you know.
So bed by 9:30. What sort of time were you finishing on the track each day?
It depends. Sometimes it would be 9:30 p.m., 10 p.m. Generally, I'd love to look back. Probably 5:30 to 6:30. That would be my mean time of finishing most days. Yeah.
So then on those days, those 3 hours before bedtime.
Yeah. Oh, man, this is another thing, eh? The fact that I was trying to raise money, the fact that I was trying to promote this thing, the fact that I was trying to get major outreach, it became a job. I'd have to get home and get the pictures from Mark. I'd have a shower, which in its own self was a chore because we'd have to jerry-rig this shitty like shower unit, or would have to do like a soft bucket. We'd have to heat the water up. I'd have to wait for that. I'd be on my phone trying to get the quote, get my caption all sorted. It became a chore, man.
Oh, come on, you had all day to think about your caption.
I know. I should have just done audio messages now I think about it. But hey, and that was how it looked. I'd have my shower, which was its chore, then I'd have dinner, and then I'd do my Instagram post. But it became so arduous, so taxing to my body that I almost was just going to be like, nah, I just don't even want to do it. But if I was trying to raise $1 million, I'd have to put this content out there. And I think it had to be coming from me. I couldn't sort of outsource it to the crew. It just wouldn't have seemed authentic. So I made sure to hold to that. Obviously, it started that there was more gaps as the mission got on because it just wasn't practical. If I was out in the bush, I had no reception. But that was how the evenings would look. Best time of day was when I finished eating my food, I'd done my post, and I was just on bed resting, knowing that bed will come in half an hour, 30 minutes, an hour. That was the best time of day every day. Like, the day's done. Yes, got through it. Yes, now I can just go to bed and just be here. Yeah.
Whatever you do next, maybe there's a better way of doing it. Like, even if it's one of your crew, like just, hey, Stefan, how do you feel doing it that way? So you don't have to fucking worry about it.
Yeah, big time.
Like if you're doing something that daunting, like the only thing on your mind should be like doing the actual thing.
Big time. That, you bring a good point. That would be something I'll change for next time. I would have set it up in a way where, I didn't have to focus so much of my energy, my brain energy on that. So next time, you bring up a very good point. Yeah.
What about the relationship with the crew? Because this is something we talked about in the first chat we had. Yeah, a lot of these sort of challenges capitulate because the crew ends up having a fight with the athlete, and because you got to remember you're busy all day doing the thing, and they're sitting there twiddling their fingers and thumbs, waiting in a camper van, driving to the next point. But you had no issues, no personality clashes.
Yeah, honestly, we were so dialed. Yeah. We were nothing. There's nothing to even like. If anything, we got like too close. You know. So let's just say, there was moments where you're like, "Ooh, what's going on here?" You know. We got comfortable. We were just It got to the point where like, there was nothing to hide. They just saw they saw all of me. Let's put it that way. You know. Like things just got so out the gate, hilarious, funny that we were just like, and I got no space to like. I've got to get changed there, boys. I've got shit to do. I'm out. You know. Like it was good. I was happy. Unless they were like blatantly lying to my face, nothing went wrong. There was probably a moment where Mark and Joel, they were actually best friends prior. They had like a play fight and it got serious and they actually ended up punching each other. But that had nothing to do with like the synergy of the thing. It was just their own thing. Fortunately that was okay. Yeah, there was one actually, I must say, shout outs to Jesse. He came because Mark had to leave the last 3 weeks. And then Joel's best mate, his mate Jesse, he actually came in and filled probably for about a week and a bit. And like, he was there, he was all in, he was dialed, he was so dialed. And then I see Joel one day and I'm like, yo, where's Jesse? He's like, oh, he's gone, bro. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean he's gone? Yeah, he's just having some shit going on. And I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean, bro? Like, give me... And then he just left with a week to go to the line. So if anything, that would be of one crew component that was a bit shifty, but he had his reasons and we spoke about it. It had nothing to do with us. It was his own thing, but that would have probably been the only crew thing that went out of the gate, and it was only a week to go.
Random. He missed the victory lap.
Yeah.
He missed the good bit.
Yeah, man. And that's why I was gutted. I was like, dude, like, you've been so dialed, like, surely one other week. And yeah, that was his own thing.
Well, keeping the crew together, especially for that period of time, that must say a lot about you. You must have been quite respectful with them.
Yeah, I think so.
Did you ever lose your cool? I mean, it's hard because if you're always in pain, you're always exhausted.
Yeah, in a way, but nothing out the gate. I think by that point, I was so regulated with my emotions, as dynamic and as intense as they were. I never put it out on them, and if I did, it was very honest. There was one instance where. This was the start of the South Island. It was justified, let's put it that way. It was the start of the South Island. I had Sam with me on this leg. We did the Queen Charlotte Trail, 72K leg. That was in one day. We get there, we start, because we had to get a ferry taxi from Picton that took us to the head of Queen Charlotte Trail. So we already started that at about 9:45 a.m., which is the latest start we'd ever done in the whole mission to run 72K. So we did that. We were well, in communication with the boys as to when we're going to be meeting them there. We get to the finish. It was about 9:30 p.m. The boys went there. They're like, oh, we did this post and it just took longer. And then I saw him. I was like, fuck, boys. Like, quite frankly, I don't give a fuck about Instagram and the post if it means that it's going to mean I'm getting later to the motorhome and I'm showering later, I'm eating later. All that shit goes to the side. Like, I need you to focus on, like, my needs, frankly. Sam understood it. And the boys, that was the only time where I was probably, like, stern and angry at them. But they completely took it on board. They respected, they understood, which I was grateful for. I hope I didn't come across as a dick to them. But they said, nah, it was justified. So that was the only real instance where it was like, yo, there was other couple things where they came late. But that was just things dialing in, They were still kind of settling into their role as to how it looked. Yeah. So I'm again, that grateful piece, man. Like, I'm just grateful that they were able and willing to have stayed as long as they did. I had a friend as well. He mentioned, it goes to show the key and the component of having a team and how much things like this. You need to have a good team, So again, I was blessed with that.
Brilliant. Did you have any injuries?
Yeah. Day two,
oh,
man.
No. But obviously nothing that threatened to derail the whole campaign.
Wow. That's the thing, man. Like, when you're in it, you're like, holy shit. this could derail the whole campaign.
Especially on day 2. Like,
Exactly.
what the fuck?
Like nothing real acute, let's put it that way, where it would be like a rolled ankle. It was chronic injuries that came over time of just the battering I was giving my body. So yeah, day 2, 90 Mile Beach, slight camber, ever so slight, ankle flared up, agony. Day 4, like nearly crying. I think I did cry at one point in the day. You know those ankle calf guard compression, I don't know what you call them, socks? Yeah, I put that on at the start of the day. By the end of the day, I was so close I would have had to have cut them because the swelling was so intense. I had Sam trying to like pull them off. I'm like, no, get out. I'll sort it, bro. I didn't want to cut them, but I was very close to. And like dealing with that day 4, it was so overwhelming for my brain to be like, how the heck am I going to get through this thing if already I'm in excruciating pain day 4, so injured. And then somehow I was just like, well, this is it. This is why I'm doing it. That was one instance. There was another instance when I did the Timber Trail, which was around not far from Ongaru, kind of in the Taupo region, heading towards...
you like Tamaranui way?
Yeah, exactly. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, real big for mountain bikers.
Huge. And that was a huge leg as well. The last portion of that leg was about 34K, and at that point I'd already done 50, 60, 70. Yeah, I'd already done about 42, about a marathon's worth, so I had to finish off the day. Ended up being a 77K day. That last leg, I had another injury come up, and like that was a moment too where it was I did kind of, you know, a few tears came out my eyes just because it felt like too much, and I had to work through that. But that was one moment again where I was like, fuck, what am I doing here? Like, why am I here? You know, all this processing, and the injury, it was preventing me from just getting a solid gait. But it got to the point, I had Sam with me on this last leg too, which was a godsend. Having him there and just seeing him in his rhythm, he was fresh. Seeing him move so fluidly, I was like, okay, I've just got to stick with him. You know, I can't get rescued. I can't get out of here. The boys can't come to pick me. I just need to keep moving. You know, those were very specific instances where the injuries just were like, you know, how can I do this? And there was other areas too where my ankle, like, because the terrain was so variant, I'll take a step and my ankle just would never roll. That happened probably 10, 15 times where it's like, shit, how did my ankle not roll just then? So many times where that would have been game over, but it just didn't happen. So that was more luck more than anything. But yeah, it was those few injuries that just, the body's just so adaptive. You know, if you just keep going and it's not a break and you haven't snapped something, you can work through a lot.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It really is. So what was your biggest day and your shortest day?
Shortest day would have been the TeAraroas. Biggest day would have been probably the Timber Trail, 77K day.
And what was the TeAraroas?
TeAraroas, yeah. That was the day I got rescued. Yeah, Sam and I, we got rescued. It was 23K.
What was that? You would chop it out, right?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Just so, yeah.
So the TeAraroas, that's near sort of Palmerston North Way.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, exactly. Heading towards Wellington, and you're just on the cusp of that region. So we went in super underprepared in hindsight, but at the time we're like, let's move quick. We had our shorts. Well, I had my shorts, had my socks, had my shoes. Had my t-shirt, had my backpack, and had a shitty rain jacket. I had one set of dehydrated food, and our plan was to get through the whole TeAraroa ranges, which, to those that don't know, you're looking at close to 5,000 meters elevation gain, and I think it's about 80K worth. So it's a big shift. But you're dealing with ridge lines. It's not runnable. You're hiking. To do that in one day is extreme, you know. So we went in with that mentality, and by the time we're about 4 hours in, we're like, fuck, this weather is bad. We're like, let's keep pressing on.
Bad as in like stormy or zero visibility?
Yeah, zero visibility. I guess you couldn't say stormy, but zero visibility. It started to hail. You started to get some crosswinds that were just like, I haven't experienced anything like it. That coupled with hail slapping your face, like little flicks constantly the whole time, you know? Little burns. And then we got on this ridge line, and it was that point where I looked at my hands, and I was like, holy shit. My hands were like nearly white. I don't know if you know what Raynaud's is.
Oh, I have it.
Do you?
Yeah, I have Raynaud's, yeah.
Oh, shit. Well, you know, exactly. I literally had that on both hands. I didn't get Raynaud's too, but my hand, it was almost like right, all my hands were like white. That was when I was like, holy fuck, this is serious shit now. But because I was moving, I knew I wouldn't go hypothermic. I just had to keep moving. So we got to the hut, and it was that point it went all downhill for me. I had an emergency blanket that ripped. Sam was okay because his blanket was intact and it was a better quality one. We got our food in, and it was at that point where it's like, okay. So at this point, it was 23 Ks were done. And then, yeah, we were there shivering. We had to make the call. Okay, well, these are our options. We either keep going, which is more exposure, go back out in the cold. We've cooled down, so we have to heat up. So that's a factor. We have to get this food in us. That's something. We've got no food left to carry us going, and we can't go back. Or we pull the pin and realize that we have to be rescued. So we obviously did the latter because...
The what? The ladder? Oh, the ladder.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So those...
So what do? You have like a sat nav
yeah, it's
phone,
like a little Garmin inReach. So it's technically not a PLB per se, but it has a SOS beacon. So yeah, we did that, and it was a 7-hour process of back and forth communication. Bless Sam, I was in my blanket that wasn't even a blanket, shriveled up, like genuinely scared for my life because I thought I was going to get hypothermia, freezing, trying to keep myself cool, and Sam was trying to get the signal out. You know, this was a 7-hour process of dealing with the rescue services. They weren't going to come because the weather was far too volatile, far too dangerous for their choppers. And eventually we got into, the rescue services, Landsar, I believe, they got in touch with the Air Force, and they sent an NH90 to come and extract us after about 7 hours of this back and forth communication line. Yeah, man, it was real deal shit. Like thinking, being in your head in a place of like, fuck, I'm gonna die. I could possibly die. Like it was intense to deal with. And then that coupled with being cold, but knowing that we're in the hut, knowing that these guys would at least come to us if it meant them hiking up. Hey, at least we had that. We just have to drive this out. It'll be an uncomfortable night, but it'll be possible. We can get through this. You know, there was a point too where I was like, yo, like, Sammy, I think we might have to like just spoon each other. You know, we might have to get each other's body heat. I was like, if this is the case, and this is the case, man, this is what we have to deal with. But fortunately, it didn't go there. We got rescued in time. But yeah, so that being our shortest day.
Yes, so you get airlifted off, and then what?
Get airlifted off, and then we have to obviously process what happened. The Air Force were actually quite gracious. They didn't give us any shit for what happened. They went. There was a report that Landsar did as to what went wrong. We just let them know we're completely underprepared, completely our own fault. We didn't divert any of the blame. So yeah, that was part of that. And then the next day we went into town and basically just got better supplies, better equipped. That night I actually cried because I was overwhelmed about having to go out there the next day. So we had that day off to get supplies, and then we had to go out the following morning. And that was the first time on the mission where I actually like freaked out. I felt I'm out of my depth here. I can't do this. This is too much. And had to work through that. Had to shit asleep that night because I couldn't sleep because I was so focused on thinking about what we're going to have to do. And then, yeah, we went out again that same day, but we had to turn around again because the weather was just too volatile. It was too adverse. So we were like, nah, like we've been here. We know what we're in for. It's just, I think there was a part of it too. I was just too traumatized. Let's put it that way. I was too shook up. I didn't think I had it in me to go back out there. Had I gone out there on a fresh day in that sort of weather with the gear we had, I could have done it. We could have, but I was too shook up, you know. It was still hailing as well. So I was like, nah, like I'm not confident. I'm not comfortable.
Yeah, it's like some mild PTSD or something.
In a way, yeah. And there was that moment where I was like, okay, the FKT is officially done because I had to turn around and do a reroute. The moment you do a reroute, it's not eligible as an official FKT. So it was that moment where I was like, well, man, I want to do this thing. And and I realized in that moment, this mission is bigger than me now and just doing this thing. This is like a momentum. This is like a life lesson that I think I'll hold for the rest of my life, where you have something, you're so fixated on one thing, but you have to divert, change course, and get after it another way. Still get after it, but get after it in another angle. So, yeah.
Such a bummer though, eh?
Yeah, it was. It sucked. Like, I was gutted, but I was like, well, just got to keep moving, you know?
Yeah, what do you do? Did you get lost many times?
Never lost in the sense, like, went off course or went a different route, and I was like, oh shit, never lost, because I had the app, had my phone, And there was markers along the way, mostly. There was moments where I took a wrong turn because there was a marker, but it turned out to be another marker and a fork, and that would frustrate me because it would add extra K and a half. But yeah, never lost in the true sense of the word.
Because I've done parts of the trail, and in some parts there's those metal poles. I think they're called waratahs.
Yeah.
And they're just like spray painted orange at the top. And they'll have them every couple hundred meters, and at times you're like, am I on the right path?
Am I on the right path? Big time. That would happen. That's when we'd have to just bring out our phone.
Right.
Or you could generally see, okay, there's a path here. And then you end up seeing it. But there was definitely moments where you have to you second guess for sure, especially when you're in like the deep bush. You know, there's like not a marked path per se, and you're like, holy shit. And there was one moment in particular where I went off course in such a way, and somehow my app wasn't lining up to the course, and I was like, oh, okay. But it was only a 5-minute lost scenario.
Oh, see, I'd be furious about that.
Yeah, 5 minutes of that, and I was like, okay, sweet, I'm all good, and I found the path again. Yeah.
Yeah, and what about memorable interactions or conversations with strangers?
Big time.
You bump into heaps of cool people?
Yeah, it seems like the crew got more of that than me. But I definitely had some memorable interactions. There was one instance where it was actually when we were in Kaitaia. There was this old fella that came up and he saw the mission, the long path. He was like, fuck, the long path. No one wants to do the long path, you know. we're sick of the long path. And I got talking. I'm like, well, brother, it's the long path that brings us to the most meaning, the most change, the most, difference. It's the long path that we need to take in life sometimes.
Yeah.
And he agreed, and then he actually stopped and spoke to us and just laid it all out to us. Spoke about his family. Spoke about I think it may be a bit of his son or his nephew that took his life. He just opened up to us, just open book, just shared this journey with us, shared his traumas, his pains, and hearing that so early on just gave me more fuel for the mission. That was a real distinct moment. And there was another instance where I met, when you walk the TeAraroa trail, you either go northbound or southbound, and then the colloquial term that they have is you're either a nobo or you're a sobo. Sobo being southbound, nobo being northbound. So I'd meet people that were nobos as I was coming down, and then I'd meet them back again and have these interactions, real great interactions. And there was one instance where I met a lady that was a nobo, and I'd got to Bluff, came back, and she was like, oh my God, Stefan. We had like a great conversation. She shared about her, her journey, and she was an older lady too, like probably in her mid-60s. So instances like that, but I'd love to hear it from the boys because they had much more interactions like that. And Taumaranui, the lady gave me cash on the road because I told her I got offered Lyft probably 3-4 times in that city alone. Real interesting dynamic in that little place of New Zealand. And then the boys had instances all the time where people would come up to them, gas stations, give them cash. They would stop and talk, share their story. And sorry, there's one other instance too in Blenheim. Shout outs to Damien. He was actually a recovering meth addict. Amazing story. And he's gone deep down the path of, what would you say, male empowerment, let's put it that way. He's focused massively on mental health for men and just men allowing to be men. He opened up and shared his story with me and another lady in the same day, probably an hour apart, Stella. Amazing woman. She confessed that she actually attempted to take her life, and she turned her life around and now has 3 kids and is on this path of discovering herself. So those sorts of interactions, it makes it easier to endure what I was enduring, and just having them share so honestly and so rawly their story, their instances.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And I suppose people see what you're doing and they discover what your why is, and it sort of creates that like vulnerability exchange.
Yeah.
Oh, so what's the easiest way to do it? Sobo or nobo? I suppose you'd say nobo because you've already done half of it. So
Yeah. I'd
it's hard for you to have a balanced opinion on that.
Yeah, I would probably say nobo.
It's harder.
Maybe, because because I think it's more punchy, and you've got the lead up to like what you're going through, and then it's like hard, and then it's all downhill, so to say. Like you get through the hard part, which is TeAraroa's, Richmond Ranges and Waiau Pass, the other big three. That's at the end of the South Island, end of the North Island, beginning of the South Island, then it's all downhill, so to say, to the finish. When you do it Nobo, you kind of have to get through that, then you've still got the whole country ahead. I don't know, it depends how you look at it, but I would say Sobo would have been probably the more forgiving way, easier way, better way.
Is that what the world's hardest geezer's doing? Is he going Sobo?
Yeah, he'll be doing Sobo, yeah.
Oh, pussy.
Yeah. Yeah. tag.
Yeah, let's clip this.
Yeah. That'll hopefully get him,
Yeah. Would you want to do some legs with him?
Yeah, shit, yeah. Clip that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What about mantras? Do you have any mantras that you, or things that you said yourself over and over again to get you through the tough?
Well, not necessarily mantras, but just like, I'm Jerome, I'm here. Thank you, God. Thank you, body. That's something I actually do a lot in races too. I'd be grateful to the body. I'd pray every single day. That would help me so much, man. Like, because, I'm just remembering why I'm doing this. It's my reminder. Mantras, not so much, but just like self-talk. It was always a self-talk, I'm in this, I'm doing this, I'm in this, I'm doing this, I'm in this. That was one that would be reoccurring, especially when I was in a real dark space. Okay, this is why I'm doing this. This is why. This is why. That would be like my, echoing self-talk.
And the last couple of kilometres, like along the path to the lighthouse at Cape Reinga, what the fuck was that like?
Bro, it was ecstatic. I was so lucky that I had Jerome's two best mates, Maurice and Tom. They joined me for a few legs, but they joined me specifically for this last portion. They met me on that last bit of the beach. We just hugged and we just ran it out, and it was bliss, man. Like when I saw the lighthouse, I started welling up. I was like, just like, fuck, it's there. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like that was intense emotions, very intense, so much elation. And then I saw my mum. She was like, Stefan came and hugged me. Amazing feeling. But when I saw the lighthouse, like I could only put it up to like, say, when Arasanya won his belt back, like I'd imagine it would have felt like to explain it. I mean, I'd love to talk to him and ask him, but I'd imagine that's what it would have felt like, is probably what I felt like. Like I did this seemingly impossible thing and it was done, it was over. I'd achieved it. Obviously not like how I planned, not how I had it in my mind, but I'd done it. And I had my family there, and I had the LCP boys there, and I had some support there. I had one of my best mates there, Jack. It's like I'd done it, It was just such an amazing feeling. If you could encapsulate that, honestly, you would be a multi-billionaire, that sort of state. But to get to that, I had to go through so much shit.
4 months. 4 months.
Yeah.
Most people listening will be like, oh, is it worth it? They're having that feeling for after.
That's it. But it goes to show that I think that you have more of the bad times than you do the good, and I think it's a harsh thing with life. But the more you can find peace in the bad times, and that they're there to teach you, they're valuable. They're not throwaway days. Every hard day. You know what it's like. Say even put in the term of going for a run. I saw your post, I think, the other day, like, you never want to get out of bed, but when you do, you never regret it. I feel there's kind of that's a glimmer as to what it's like. Yeah. But except it's obviously extended into this big chunk of time.
And then you finish, and what does that night look like? Do you sleep peacefully knowing that you don't have to get up the next day?
Yep.
Do you go out for dinner with your family?
No, my family had to go because Mum had school, I think, leading in, so she had to go. But I had the crew had a few beers, we got some pizzas, laughed, celebrated. Going into bed, it was a cool feeling, man. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's done.
Job done. So satisfying.
Done. I don't have to run tomorrow. Like I don't have to. I could. I don't have to. It was an insane feeling. Like the morning, beg your pardon, the last morning, the last day, that was a morning where I woke up. I'm like, oh my God. Like in the scheme of things, I've only got to run 40K, which for some, it's still a long way, but only 40K today. Oh my gosh.
And it's flat on the sand.
It's flat, yeah, exactly. And I had a few of the crew there with me to run at Sam as well, because he'd had to leave in the cargo and he joined me the last 3 days, which was amazing to have him. But yeah, that last bit, man, it was just, There's no words really, just joy, man, pure ecstasy, pure gratitude, bliss, all the positive sensations, you know. And then only after the fact where I started to feel like a sense of grief, started to feel a sense of almost depression, sadness. That came after, a couple of days after.
Why do you think that was?
I think focusing so much on this thing for so long, giving everything to it, my physical and my spiritual and my mental well-being, and having a crew for so long, being with that same group of people for so long, all those things, that to be just gone, severed, it's done. It kind of felt like a sense of meaninglessness. What now, you know? Like, all the noise is gone, you know? No one's saying like, well, good job. No, you know, it's just done, it's dead. So I think all those factors. And I think it required me to reflect. And I'm still reflecting. I'm trying to write a lot. Even this podcast, it's a sense of reflection. It's bringing up things that I haven't really thought about. I think it's required me to stop and process and sit with it and be at peace. Because at the end of the day, this is where I think you start, you know, let's have a drug addict analogy here, that you keep chasing the dragon. I've just got to make sure to be like, okay, next thing. It's like, nah, sit back, relax, in a sense, process. It's forced me to stop.
Yeah.
It's forced me to stop.
It's funny you should bring that up, because I was going to say the exact same thing, because when you came in for the podcast the first time, you said you started like endurance sport because you needed to escape your, in your words, deplorable habits. And you talked about drug addiction, alcohol, pornography, all those things. You don't want to fall into that trap of like just trying to up yourself every time with these extreme events, because I suppose that in itself is a form of potential addiction.
Big time. It's it's the caveat, I think, of everyone faces in the endurance community, whether you're a triathlete, ultra runner. How do you manage that? How do you balance that? And the more you can go forward towards something that's bringing of meaning, of value, I think you're in the right pocket. So for me now, it's like, okay, just rest, digest, so to say, and next thing will come. It'll come. I've got an idea, but it'll come when it comes. The right time will emerge. Just don't want to chase it though. Don't want to become like, like another. I don't want it to become my idol. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And you also don't want it to become a burden. I suppose the natural question is for people to ask you what's next. And even if there is no next, that's fine as well.
Big time.
You'd want to do something because you want to do something, not because you feel pressure to do it. Because
that's so true. I remember listening to Ned Brockman say those exact words as you played them. It's got to be for you, because he can agree with this and I can agree with this, that when you're doing something where you're pushing your body to that limit, very quickly, extrinsic motivation is going to cease. It's got to be. I think it has to be, because when your back's against the wall, why are you doing it? Oh, because everyone, well, then that's going to dwindle so quick. It has to come from inside. It has to be of something of value and provide something of value to others. And that ties into this whole thing, right? It's for the men, ultimately. Women too, 100%. But men, and my brother, he went through what he went through, and how can we stop that? And right now, I know that doing this for men and doing this in that space, that's where it's got to be. That's where the attention's got to go, and that's where my energy's going to go. So, I'm patient, man. I'm not in any rush, but I must admit I'm keen to get training again, because I got an event coming up, a race. Hopefully I'll be all good, but if not, again, I don't care. I'll wait. But I'm keen to get moving again. But it's been good, man. The recovery, even just being here, reflecting, it helps. It actually really helps.
Your own mental health. You're
good. As I said, it was a bit dark those weeks and a bit, but good, man. I'm energized. Yeah.
And you knew Jerome like better than almost anyone. So I think it's safe to say you can answer this question with a degree of accuracy. What would he think?
He would be like, fuck. That would be his language. He'll just be like, fuck. Unreal. Amazing. He'd be happy. He'd be stoked. He would be proud. I know Jerome. He was always so supportive of my endeavours, all of our family. And he'll just be so supportive. He'll be like, mean brother, you're all in. He probably wouldn't get it as to why, but he would be stoked. Yeah.
Yeah, you're deeply spiritual. Were there times on the TeAraroa trail that you could sort of feel his presence or sense his presence?
Man.
Or
Yeah.
how did that look? Was it like a tui in a tree, or was it a sunrise, or
the skies, clouds, and horses? Seeing horses. Jerome loved horses, especially near the latter part of his life. He loved horses. Whenever I'd see a horse, I'd be like, yeah. He'll just have that sense of warmth, you know. And then it was sometimes through when I would, the odd times I'd listen to music, and there was one instance where a song would come on that was his song, and it would just be like, just start crying with emotion, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there was a lot of tears.
Yeah.
What do you reckon? Most days or every second day?
Nah. I've just happened to share it that I have. Honestly, surprisingly, probably 5-6 times where it'd be like instances. There was one day in particular, it was just after Waiau Pass, South Island. It was just before a goat pass. That was the shittest day I'd probably had the whole mission. I was just overwhelmed, you know, everything compounding, everything collapsing on itself. That was a hard day. And I was actually listening to Hardest Geezer's book. And for some reason, he mentioned about this inmate that killed himself. And then from there, it just went all downhill. I was just thinking about Jerome and thinking about the intensity of this whole thing, why I'm here. I felt so alone in that moment. I had no crew there. I couldn't see them for another 35, 40K. That was an overwhelming moment. That was one particular moment where I just broke down. And then Sam came and I just broke down, you know. And it's a good place to be because there's nothing to hide, you know. I've got nothing to prove. But yeah, honestly, those were the few instances where tears would come, and obviously the finish line was probably the most positive tears I felt.
Yeah, that amazes me. I'm surprised there wasn't more because, physically you're just broken down as much as what a human being can be, which makes you more emotional.
Big time. Yeah, I think there's only so much. Like I definitely, you know, as I've shared, I cry, but it was more just the mental, just the distress of just like, fuck, why am I? It was like frustration and anger. That was the main overriding emotions. It's like, fuck, why am I here? How can I do this? It's impossible. It's not possible. That was more of an onslaught of emotions, not tears. Those were daily, those emotions. Yeah.
Are you proud of yourself?
Yeah. But again, pride, just a funny word, Dom. It's a fucking funny word, man. But I am. I am, man. Like, all I know is like I can look back on this now and be like, fuck, damn, I did that, you know? It's an empowering place to be. I'm just excited now about what's to come, what's next, and how can I continue to add value to this cause that I've decided to, you know, that this cause that's essentially slapped me in the face is mental health and suicide prevention ultimately. So it gives me that, but yeah, man.
Well, I mean, for the charity, the Last Chance Project, who you raised $231,000 for, like I can't imagine their debt of gratitude. But for a personal perspective for Stefan Ozich, it's like you haven't just like redefined your personal physical boundaries, like you've smashed them.
Yeah, cool way of putting it. And that's kind of why this race I've got coming up, it's a backyard ultra, 6.7K every hour on the hour.
It's a great format. Last man standing, pretty much.
Great format. That for me is a big monkey on my back. And it's like, okay, I know I've got this in me. I've only done it twice and I've fully missed the mark of where I want to be. It's like, okay, this for me is like, this is going to be like a real litmus test for me now. But again, I'm not rushing into it. If I'm not ready, I'm not ready. I'll wait. But yeah, you're right, man. That's a good point. Shattered it. Yeah.
Are we calling out Sam Harvey as well as Russ Cook? Sam Harvey's like the New Zealand king of backyard ultras.
He's the man. He's big. Yeah, I've actually done a podcast with Sam Harvey. He's a very interesting man. He knows his shit. He's doing his thing. He's got his way of approaching it, and I respect that, you know. Obviously, I'd like to be toe the line with him. Absolutely. I ain't going to deny that. I've just got work to do because he's definitely far ahead of me in that game.
He's a savage. I had him on the podcast a couple of years ago. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy. Yeah, the backyard ultra thing, it intrigues me, but I hate sleep deprivation worse than anything. So I know if I was doing one, I'd get like 10 hours in, 67K, and I'd probably be like, oh yeah, that's good. That's a good knock.
Good knock. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing.
Home to bed.
It's such a sadistic event format that like 10 hours in, which is what? That's probably about, what's that, like 80, 60 something K?
Yeah, if it's 6.7 Ks, then
yeah. That's a big inning. That's a big inning. But like, because you're in the space of all these animals that are like trying to go 24, 48, in Sam's case, 100 hours, it's like, oh, have you only done that? But like, it's a funny space, but it forces you and it promotes the ability in yourself to push yourself to go one more lap.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Well, Backyard Ultra and whatever else the future may bring. I'm proud of you, Stefan, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
Yeah, appreciate it, Dom. Yeah.
Well done, mate. You did it. You fucking did it.
Yeah, we fucking did it. Legend. Nah, thank you for having me. And again, from the onset, you know what, promoting the platform, you know, like it was intentional maybe, or maybe you're just being a good cat. Like it helped, you know. So I thank you for that, what you were able to sort of propel it. And your timing was great. You probably did that strategically, but I'm glad that you did it, that I'd done one link first. And that brought the right eyes to then start following. And people at me, oh, I listen to the Dom podcast, and they'll fill me in on their shit, on their journey.
Well, bro, it was strategic. I wanted to make sure you're in the second half.
Yeah,
because,
I'm glad, man.
I've done a lot of podcasts with people that say they're going to do extreme things. But again, until and when you get to halfway, it's like, oh, this guy's the real deal.
Yeah.
It's
Such a weird thing to say. I ran one link for the country and was only halfway. That was a moment for me.
It's cool.
Yeah. Nah,
anyway, you're a great New Zealander, and it's great to have you back on the podcast. I don't think I knew this first time we spoke, but your intensity, that's partly because of your Croatian roots.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I love the intensity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
You're one of a kind.
Nice, man. I'm
Stefan
glad.
Ozich. Good stuff.
Legend. Thank you, brother.